So a forward observer is attached to an infantry company to provide protection and offense for that unit should they be engaged in a firefight or some kind of combat. My job was to, first of all, was to keep track, very accurate track as best as I could, where we were as we marched in the jungle in columns of two, 20 meters apart, 10 yards between men. I kept a pace count, and I had a compass so that I knew our exact direction of march, and I could plot that on a map so that I knew where we were at all times. So that from that position, I could, if needed, call for artillery fire to beat back the enemy or airstrikes, whatever was needed. In essence, I was, though, basically an infantryman carrying an M16 rifle, but the difference was that I had a compass, a map, and a radio to my fire direction battery or my fire battery, artillery battery. And I basically had command of the Air Force and all power in the military that I could muster to protect our unit and keep us alive and accomplish the mission. So that's what I did. We were in Cambodia, and we were in close to the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and we were in this area they called the city, which was a large area of bunkers and supply areas in Cambodia. So it's not in wasn't until we went in there, our official combat zone. But we ran into some enemy, and they were tracking us as much as we were tracking them. And we were set up near a bomb crater one night. About 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I counted 70 mortar rounds being fired from about a half a mile away. Of course, I knew they were, and simultaneously, automatic weapons fire was fired right into where we were. Tracer rounds were snapping 2 or 3 feet over my head. And so I called a fire mission in on those mortar rounds where they were coming from until I zeroed in on them and fired barrages until that quit. And at the same time, usually the enemy's tactic was they would try to soften you up with rocket and mortar rounds, and then they try to rush you or storm your location with troops. And but their rounds missed. They were way long. Mine didn't miss. And the motors quit. I did something I didn't learn how to do. It just made sense instantly. If you could imagine a football field with the sidelines all the way around the end zone and back, all the way around the whole thing, is the 4 sides of our position. I had artillery rounds being fired between the 4 corners of that football field of our location, back and forth, back and forth. So I had a wall of exploding steel all the way around us. And if they were going to get to us, they had to go through that. We heard some NVA screaming. Our interpreter said one apparently had his leg blown off, but they didn't get through. And that was pretty much the end of their assault. At the time, it was the higher commands liked to have body counts. I'm sure that was a battalion-sized unit that was trying to attack us because they were carrying close to 300 mortar rounds with them. But instead, when it got daylight, we backed up a few hundred yards, a couple hundred yards, and fired intensive barrages all over the area where they had been. We didn't worry about body counts. We just didn't want any of those bodies to be ours. I think that day we had 1 wounded, and it was probably from my own shrapnel. So because I was getting so close to knock the enemy out that I was about to hit us.